Hello and welcome to the Inside Stylist podcast, where we talk all about interiors. From interviews with interior stylists, writers and assistants to trend forecasters, Instagram experts and the up-and-coming brands we all want to feature. There's so much to talk about. I'm your host, Emma Morton-Turner. Enjoy the show. Today's guests are a husband and wife duo who, after travelling in Asia and seeing fishing boats being tethered together with rope made from unravelled plastic bottles, came up with an idea to combat the mountains of plastic waste that adds up every year. With experience in weaving and an organics drink business under their belts, they knew they came from an environmental ethos and wanted to clean up some of the 35 billion bottles that end up in seas and landfill every year. They explored ways in which this plastic rope could be used, and that's when their idea was born. Today, their company offers recycled rugs, blankets, footstools, cushions and bags that look and feel like jute or wool, but are in fact 100% recycled plastic bottles. Today's guests are Barny and Tasha Green from Weaver Green. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Barny.
Hello.
Thank you very much for seeing me so close to Christmas. Very lovely to be here.
Well, here's some mince pies if we,
keep us going.
Yeah, to keep us going, absolutely.
So, I found out about your trip to Asia on your website, but I'd love to understand, what were you on holiday?
We were actually in Turkey. So we were staying. My family have a kind of long connection in Turkey, and we were sitting basically on a bench overlooking the sea, and someone very ingeniously had literally with a knife unravelled a plastic bottle.
Oh, by hand?
By hand. So caps and all, and basically they had heat sealed each end. And then joined it to another piece. So we then had this plastic that was very sharp and basically a kind of long unravelled section of plastic. And there was something about seeing a thing that had been solid and three-dimensional, seeing it unravelled and realising that obviously it was fluid, and that kicked off this kind of realisation that in all of our wardrobes in our homes there's polyester. And plastic bottles, PET, are basically a form of polyester. So could we, with the history that Barnes' family had in the weaving and with the background of environmental interest that came from my side, could we do something where rather than making virgin plastic and synthetics, could we actually take plastic bottles and turn them into a yarn of some description? That was about 9 years ago, and the journey was painful and emotional.
Oh, really?
Yes. But here we are at the end of it, and it's been an interesting journey.
That's very interesting. It was 9 years ago because recycling is so big right now, and actually it's huge. But back 9 years ago, 9 years ago we were recycling, but not to the extent we are now. So it's very you have the foresight to see that this is a good thing to do.
What was very interesting actually was that when we first started, we knocked on the door of all the yarn manufacturers, because obviously we needed partners to go into the journey. We knocked on all of the yarn manufacturers in Europe, and everyone was not interested. They could all make new plastic for us, and they had lots of clever ways of doing that, but actually nothing using recycled. So we actually realised that the only way this was going to happen is if we did it ourselves. So we developed this process, and we started actually in the UK, and then we found a shocking shortage, ironically, of plastic. Oh. So all of our plastic at that point was being shipped overseas, mostly to China.
So that's doubly bad for the environment.
Exactly. So it's being sent overseas and used in incineration. So we thought, okay, what we're going to have to do is basically find out where there's plastic and where we can source plastic reliably and where there's actually a plastic problem, because obviously we're actually very good at recycling in the UK, and we kind of always had been actually, but then that sort of the journey that people have been going on and the commitment people have been to actually recycle wasn't being realised, or probably their expectations would be that it was being used in a kind of useful way. But actually what was happening is it was being sent overseas to be incinerated. So we went to India, where we'd been married actually, and identified the Ganges as one of the 4 top polluting rivers in the world, and we started our journey there.
So how did you physically get from being a bottle to being a fibre?
So this is an interesting thing. Actually, that was the challenge. So we were actually on a journey with the yarn manufacturers from the beginning, because we knew that once we had got to a certain point in the process that we would then get the yarn that we wanted to get the feel of, and it had to have that sort of non-synthetic, fluffy, fuzzy feel. Because however much we all love the idea of recycling, what you need to do is make things that people actually want.
Absolutely.
If they don't like it, they're not going to buy it. So we started off basically on a journey where we now chip plastic bottles, and so they're washed and cleaned, and we separate the caps, which are often made from polypropylene, which is not really good for our process, so that we get to a point where we have PET, which is a kind of the purest form of plastic, food grade plastic. This is chipped into small pieces. We then, under heat, we extrude it into fine filaments, long fine filaments. And then the magic then is to actually get that open fibre, so it has that slightly fuzzy feeling.
Yeah. So is it like cotton?
Yes, it's very, very fine. So we can do different deniers. And I've got some things to show you.
We have some in front of us. So it looks like wool. It looks like white wool.
So what happens is, phase one, we've basically taken the plastic bottles, we've washed them, they've then been chipped into small pieces. They're then under a heat process extruded into a fine denier, but very long threads. The reason for that was that we were quite aware of the microfibre issue, and actually if you have long threads, then shedding's much is better. They don't shed as much. So we have these long fibres, but they're still plasticky.
Yeah.
They feel shiny and hard. So then we go through a very involved process where we mechanically comb, so it's stretched and stretched under steam. Then we mechanically comb this sort of fibre into and blow hot air, a kind of fuzz. And so that's starting to behave now a bit like a wool.
What I have in my hands, listener, is essentially, it feels like what you would find inside a pillow that you pull apart that isn't feathers, basically, like a what's it called, a hypoallergenic.
Yes.
So it just feels really soft. It doesn't feel plasticky at all.
And actually, if you look at it, if you feel the virgin version of plastic, so if you find something that is a synthetic cushion inner, it will actually have a slightly squeaky, shiny feel still. If you feel this one, it actually feels more like wool. Once you start opening the fibre,
it feels like wool that you pick off a fence.
Yeah,
you know when you walk, fleece when it's washed.
Yeah,
and
the bits that get caught on a fence. If you take that and hold it in your hand. So then, and if you start opening that fibre, then you've got that kind of fuzzy opening, slightly translucent feeling. So at this point, we've turned our solid plastic into something that's starting to behave like wool. And the second it starts to behave like wool, and we've opened the fibres with the combing and the air and the sort of that process, we now can start spinning it. And if you watch my hand here, I'm basically spinning the wool-like feel.
So Tasha's got the kind of fuzzy fibres, and she's twisting it into a long strand, so it actually starts to look like you would find a ball of wool.
Exactly.
And then with that you can weave.
And so the second we have that, we then start turning it into a yarn.
Right.
So this is then spun in a completely classic, traditional way into a yarn. The next part, which is very interesting, was being very conscious of the pollution part of it, and also water. So there's one side which is, from an environmental side, was we're rescuing plastic, and about 40% of our plastic is actually waterborne as well. So about 40% from water, mostly the Ganges now, although we have other rivers we're working with, looking at South America now as well. And about 60% would have ended up in landfill. But there's also an issue with water. So dyeing is a very polluting process. And the use of formaldehyde and chromium and things like tanning is very bad. So we have a process.
And actually also the cycle of washing the plastic bottles.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously not clean when they start in the beginning of the...
especially if they're coming out the Ganges.
Things.
Exactly.
So all of that has to be taken into account. And we've spent a lot of time visiting and working with our suppliers and manufacturers and the people who are making the yarns. And it's all filtered, kept. Nothing goes back into the river systems. So all of that potential pollutant is also captured.
We run a completely closed system. So there's about it's basically the equivalent of 5,000 litres goes into making 1,000 kilos, so basically a tonne. So 5 tonnes of water makes 1 tonne of yarn. If you don't use a closed system, basically that's completely wasted water. So we heat the boilers to when we're dyeing, actually with rice husks, so that's all completely recycled, in a kind of good compressed boilers. And then the water is just, we're basically using, with a small amount of top up, the same 5,000 litres of water. And I think we're on our 68 millionth bottle.
Really? Wow,
Ish.
That's phenomenal.
So, and that was another part that was very important as well, that kind of, keeping the water systems. So the whole system is kind of...
Yeah, that's really impressive.
Closed.
Because actually, I hadn't really thought of that side of it, the pollutant in actually producing it. It's the whole, you're using plastic bottles, which is amazing, but that... It's like 100% recycled, isn't it? It's completely eco-friendly.
And not just that, but if you go to any kind, even Portugal, or there have been times when rivers just change colour because of the amount of dyes that are actually leaving. So this is not just a kind of developing world issue where we get most of our textiles from. It's also a problem all over. So I think it's we were quite early in that journey, so it was quite hard finding the right partners that were on the same journey as us, or that we could persuade. It was a good idea. Yeah. So we have communities that collect the plastic for us now, and a lot of that for me is about also allowing women particularly to be economically independent. So we work with women's groups in a lot of the countries that we're working with now to give value to plastic, so it's actually collected and actually has a benefit for families. So because that's also another important journey.
Makes me feel really warm and fuzzy.
Yeah,
that's really lovely.
It's amazing. I think also if you're, when you start travelling,
it's empowering, isn't it?
It is, and as a woman, I think if you travel, you start realising how lucky we are, because although there are obviously inequalities in the West, when you go to developing countries particularly, the opportunities that women have are very slim. And as I walk around as a kind of Western businesswoman, having the respect of be it a kind of yarn partner or somebody. You realise how fortunate we are, and actually that's how change happens. That's how kids get educated, and women can have a bit more freedom and independence. Yeah. And that's through financial. If the families understand that they're actually bringing money into the house, then they're actually then encouraged to work, and that's the difference. Yeah. So it's taking a waste product really and giving it value in all areas.
Yeah, that's amazing. Really, very, very inspiring.
It's our next journey.
So when did you actually launch Weaver Green as the product? How long did it take you to get from finding that kind of that rope in Turkey to producing an actual product?
Was it I think it was 5.5 years to get the process right, so that we had a yarn that felt right. And obviously we were at this time with developing something that was completely new, so it was really painful. And at this time, Barnes and I, we're independent. We don't have any kind of big business behind us or need.
And also, we did have experience of weaving plant fibre.
Yes, yeah.
Early in the 80s, my dad started crucial trading.
Oh right.
Which is
so seagrass
and natural plant fibres. Although he has nothing to do with this, and it was just, I was aware and worked with people who were weaving broadloom and understood shuttles, warps, wefts, the basics basically.
Yeah, so you had that kind of knowledge.
I did have that grounding, but this was a whole new discovery and process that had to be realised.
Yeah, it's a whole new technology, essentially,
exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So it took a long time, and there were lots of sleepless nights.
I'm sure.
And actually, it was really interesting when we first launched. We went to Top Drawer actually. We had this sort of show, and we all stood there in our little stand, having no idea how it's going to be taken. And actually, the first 2 years, all people spoke about was that they liked the designs, and actually, they didn't really get the plastic story, because at this point, the David Attenborough film hadn't come out, and the scales hadn't dropped from the eyes. So we used to really sell it on its design, and it's very practical. You can wash them, and they're hard wearing. Blah,
I think
blah.
one of the problems was it was too convincing as a wool rug, and people walked past our stand and they just passed us off as a small collection of hopefully tasteful rugs. But the actual point, and we had signs everywhere saying, "This is made from recycled plastic bottles."
Tubes of plastic.
And people marched one after the other onto the stand saying, "Got lovely wool rugs." Because it was amazing. But we've got better at communicating that. We've got big sort of tubes of plastic bottles all over the stand, and hopefully people are looking for recycled products now, so it catches people's eyes. And the word recycle, appeals.
I think that's
to people.
awareness, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
that however much we were all recycling, I don't think people really understood the scale of the plastic problem.
No.
And I think it was such a shocking thing. And interestingly, I think it was a very unifying thing, because in a world where there's so much that's going wrong and there's a lot of white noise, it's easy to become quite callous, because there's just only so much you can do about constant warfare and poverty. But there was this absolute shocking realisation of the level of plastic pollution
that we're all contributing to.
We're all contributing to. And actually, however much we might guess how long a plastic bottle might take to decompose, we have actually no idea. And it doesn't fully disappear, it just then gets eaten by fish or da-da-da-da-da. So I think that there was that level of education wasn't there, or awareness, and it took that amazing programme, the Joe Ruxton film, which was, I think, just game-changing for everybody.
Yeah.
And for us, literally overnight, suddenly everyone it was overnight. And we were suddenly fielding lots of phone calls, and obviously press were interested, or This Morning and all this kind of stuff, which was very funny. Mainly because I think there was a sudden desire people wanted to do something about it, and they needed to find a quick way of doing it because of the awareness of your toothbrush, everything you touch seemed to be
plastic is not going away, but it's all about the life cycle of plastic. So that it has many uses. I mean, it's very useful material for humans. We use it for everything. But it needs to be reused when it's expired and whatever it's going to be useful. I mean, packaging is quite simple one, isn't it?
We just need to stop making new plastic. I mean, there's enough for us to function forever. There might be certain things in the medical side of things, but we all did survive before there was plastic. I mean, it's really a modern phenomenon from 1950s really is when it got traction. So in the last 50 years, it's just this enormous problem that we need to now take control of.
And we're very sophisticated in our country, in Europe and places where there's a system for the different types of plastic and metals and everything to be organised. But the sad thing is, obviously, and everyone is aware of this now, in Asia and African places like that, all people's waste used to be compostable, or and so on. So throwing your food waste and so on by the river and everything, it was a system, and it all disappeared, and it happened for hundreds of years, I guess. But all of a sudden, these guys have all been given plastic bottles, plastic thing, and they don't know what to do with it. They don't have a...
There's no infrastructure at all.
No, of course not.
They don't have a...
And actually, you kind of have to take, someone dropping a bottle in the Ganges, it is our problem. And actually, it's been so removed, and it's very easy when we have the luxury of, we put our rubbish bags out, and the fairies come and it disappears.
Weaver Green is not going to do this on its own, but we need to give value to plastic so that all of these people collect it, recycle it, take it somewhere. Like tins have always been collected for melting down as aluminium. Well, plastic is a massive resource and very useful. But it's just giving value to it.
It's not seen like that, is it? You know that glass can be recycled, you know metal can be melted down, but plastic is something that you just think, that's it, it's there now, forever.
So I think this what's
changing people's perception.
Exactly.
It is, and also turning it into things that are not just functional and ugly.
Yes.
Because actually I think that's been half the problem. You say, I'll get a recycled chair, and you look at these things, they're hideous. What needs to actually happen is the amazing designers that we have in this world just need to take that medium and make beautiful things that we actually want to have. And I think that's what happened with the textile, the kind of hand feel is the part that people can't believe. That actually you can turn something shiny and hard and plastic and crackly into something that's fluid and soft and sensual in your hand. But we're not. There are so many wonderful things we can make out of plastic.
Yeah, I think it's happening. I think it's. I'm starting when I see press releases. I'm starting to see things coming through as a content at Conran for spring summer, and they've got recycled garden furniture now. It's things like that it's just like
great.
And it's wantable because it's got the name on it and it looks beautiful.
It's endorsed, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. So slowly, hopefully, it will trickle through. Let's talk about the products. We haven't even talked about it. So once you've got your yarn and your weaving, I'm obviously sitting here looking at it, but do you want to describe some of the product? What was your first product?
Our first product was a rug. In fact, it was a Juno rug here, this kind of graphic rug here. So
it's like overlapping squares to create like a diamond effect.
So we started with rugs because really that's what we understood, because Barnes' family come from the kind of crucial trading background, and we understood about weaving rugs, and we had connections. All of our products are hand loomed, so it's really finding those partnerships. So we take our designs to them. So we started off with a Juno rug, and that sold really, really well. And then also, very soon afterwards, we brought out this, which is a kind of a slightly softer weave. So the Juno rug is a kind of diary style, which is originally they were kind of used on nomadic. Tribal people kept them. They were quite stiff and hard, really hard wearing. Obviously, you'd put them on a sand floor, and your house was made, and no sound would incur through. Then we started working basically with looms in Europe, where we had that kind of more Scandinavian look and a softer feel. So we now have about 60 looms that we work with all over the world. And we dye our yarn in large batches, so we can get the volume basically within our closed production system. And then I design things really that I'd like in my own home.
Yes.
So it's all to do with things that we think are useful, or that I would like to have in my own home, and that I'm looking for and I don't find. So we started with that, and then also the kilims, which are amazing.
They're quite new.
The kilims, actually, we had one. The first ever kilim was called Atlas, and that was a kilim that I was looking for, mainly because it was so amazing, and the fact that second you realised that you could make something that looked so like wool and so special, then that was going to be a kind of a really good eye-catching thing.
It was quite a colourful, modern design.
Yeah.
Take on a kilim. It wasn't, dour and dark.
Yeah.
And everything we do has a sort of vibrant feel.
Yeah, it's very modern.
So we started with rugs, and soon discovered, it's great. There were so many options. We could just change the journey of the wool, and then that would, and how we wove it. We were using a cut shuttle method or an open weave. You can get different feel, a kind of softer feel or a more resilient feel and kind of stiffer feel. And then, obviously, once that happened and that was working really well, I started thinking, really, we've now got a yarn. So you can make second you've got a yarn, you can make anything. It's a kind of infinite possibility with textiles. And the next product we made were the blankets. So we started making blankets.
I've got one of those blankets. Thank you very much.
Good. Did you get your Christmas? Yeah. Oh, good.
I kind of squealed a little bit on Instagram.
I love that.
It's really interesting because when I first started going out with my husband, he had a really big rug that looked just like it. So I tore the paper. Everyone was like,
dun, dun,
thinking
dun.
it was this cushion like from my past sort of thing. And then I realised it was a bag. And then I pulled the rug, the throw out, and I was
Brilliant.
like, oh my goodness. It was like, and I had a really bad day. I was in a really bad mood, and I opened up this. I was like, I'm so happy.
The happiness.
It's a happy life. But we watched a film at the weekend, and I literally just put it over. I don't normally do this, but it's a bit chilly. I put it over my shoulders. I didn't see any of that film. I was out. I was so cosy.
Well, they're great. It's insulated.
So
because again, it's plastic. It's really insulating.
Yeah, but not like you think of plastic as being like a sweaty.
No,
wool, but it's not.
No.
It just feels like wool. They are.
And that's
really
it.
Soft wool though, not
really?
scratchy.
I can't wear
cozy.
anything real wool. It's like it's itchy. I hate
and that kind of
it doesn't feel like that
well.
at all. No, I have to keep the cat off it.
And then get there in the claw.
Yeah, not having any of that.
But yeah, so we started with that on that kind of journey of making blankets, and then suddenly you're thinking, okay, so now we want something to feel like cotton. So we worked really hard to develop the yarn for the hammam.
Grab the hammam.
Yeah,
there.
okay. So this is the hammam.
You can feel this, and that feels like a cotton.
So this is a completely new feel. So if you change
it,
that's the
completely
yarn.
different, but all from the same process. Just how you end.
More of a summer weight.
Yes, it's like a very thin.
So if you look at the
shawl.
So you're looking at basically the denier of the yarn. It's much finer, and also we haven't actually combed it to be quite so open. So this one's got that kind of open fuzzy feel.
Yeah.
It's the tighter spun, much finer yarn, and we actually comb this yarn in a different way, so it's not quite such an open fibre. So that's exciting because then you can start developing different hand feel, and that's the kind of journey we're on now.
Yeah, and you've almost got like summer blankets, winter blankets.
Yeah.
So you design everything?
Yes. Absolutely no.
How much fun is that?
No training or skill, really.
Oh, I don't think you. I think you're doing all right. So I'm going to tell you another story.
Yes.
So I did a shoot early November, and it was raining, and we walked into a location house, and we literally had a luton full of props, so we had to bring everything in the house.
I know that feeling.
They had one of your rugs
Amazing.
in the door, and I hate walking on carpet with shoes on. I've never been a take your shoes off at the door, but I won't walk on other people's carpets. And I said, "Oh, let me take your rug up." And she said, "No, don't worry, I'll chuck it in the washing machine." I'm like, "No, there's me, an assistant, a photographer, 2 van drivers, all unloading and literally going backs and forwards." And she went, "It's fine. It will go in the washing machine. It will come out like new." And it was one of yours because it's got such hard wearing qualities. I didn't believe her. I was like, "No, we're muddy, we're wet."
No, it is amazing. We have had every test. So we live, basically, half of it is being, we like to think we're problem solving. So we work a lot with interior designers because as an interior designer, you generally are faced with problems. So you've got the high traffic hallway, you've got the children in the playroom, you've got
we also
or hotels.
live with 2 spaniels.
Yes, that's the
and 3
other
children.
thing. 3 children
We're
with 2
not
spaniels.
trained to quite the level we hoped.
In the middle of a field.
Running in and out of our house with muddy feet. And quite frankly, if we didn't have Weaver Green rugs, we wouldn't have any rugs.
No, we wouldn't. So we live in a very rural place, and basically, we like a glass of red, and we definitely like having friends over and dancing. Hopefully, not on too many tables.
Yes.
But it means that for us, it's about being problem solving. So actually, everyone's so busy now. What you need are things that actually look lovely, but also perform. So you don't have to be too precious. So all of our rugs are miraculously machine washable, 40-degree wash. We have had every kind of horror. I won't describe some of the horrors, but there are some horrors.
Go on.
Go on, share one. Really sick dogs. We've had port, red, lots of wine. We've had, every horror. And we have thrown them all at the rugs and all of our things. And because they're made from plastic, they don't absorb. In a similar way to being able to wash them, they come out of the washing machine basically dry. Water flows through them, so they're not absorbed. And because they don't absorb in the same way, it means that they don't absorb stains. They are stain resistant naturally because of the nature of the yarn. And they're machine washable, and you can leave them outside. I mean, they're indoor-outdoor use.
Yeah, UV stable. So
that's what I read actually. I thought that's really interesting because I
Yeah.
remember I used to go to his house when I was a kid, and she had this runner on her table. And apart from the fact that the table now had a runner strip, but the runner was like where she had candlesticks. It was lighter and darker. We don't have that because it's UV stable.
It's not just the UK that's our market,
No,
and
of
we're lucky enough to be able to send things occasionally to the Med and so on, and people there, where it's sunny and it does rain and everything, it's exposed to the elements. And this is perfect for inside outside.
Oh, I'm just thinking you want to throw up a nice
and
thick
the
throw
cushions
over a table.
Yeah. Well, we've got beautiful cushions, the whole thing is made from recycled plastic. The only thing not is the zip, but inside the actual, we use this fibre as the filling.
Yeah.
So again, rain basically passes through, and then you just air dry them. But you can leave them outdoors, and if they get kind of mouldy or really grubby, you just literally put them in the washing machine.
So you bung them in the washing machine.
Yeah.
It's genius.
So then that life becomes easier because actually we're all busy, everyone works, and you want to think that you have something that looks lovely but is not too precious.
Yeah, and easy.
Everyone
wants
some
an easier
Some of your
life.
listeners might be thinking, how do you get a 3 by 2.5 metre rug in your washing machine? Well, we tried, they don't fit.
They don't fit.
But you know what?
The laundrette.
You just take
The
it to the
laundrette.
laundrette.
It's like my king size duvet doesn't fit in my washing machine. I still take it down to the laundrette.
£5 wash.
Yeah.
And they don't need to be tumble dried. They come out basically dry. So you literally just hang them over a rail.
Your banisters or something. Yeah, easy. So what's your best-selling product?
So actually, it depends on. It's changing actually. It's changing slightly.
With seasons or
no,
with
it's changing
awareness?
with profile because when we first started, we were mostly selling to little independent shops. And what we found is that they were all buying the entry level, which is this is an open weave. This is the least expensive rug for us to weave because the process is very simple. It's an open weave. It's nice and soft and squishy, and that we have a smaller amount of yarn used per square metre.
Yeah.
As soon as you start making things like diaries and cut shuttle methods and kilims, you're basically compacting, which is why they're stiffer. So you've got a denser weave with more yarn. It's more expensive. So we found when we first opened our little stand at Top Drawer, being very excited, that everyone came in and they all bought basically small bath mats in the cheapest, least expensive weave.
Yeah.
And we opened accounts with that. So that seemed to be the direction. And of course, when you're designing things, you look at what you're selling. We soon realised that actually what people want to buy are the more interesting statement rugs in bigger sizes. And so end users started buying the bigger products because they want to see, that's what they actually want in their house.
Yeah.
So now we sell a lot of the hot sellers this year have been the kind of amazing washed out kilims, the more kind of design led stuff, the things that have a bit more of an opinion. I think everyone's looking for colour now.
Yeah.
So we started off being kind of very neutrals and lots of soft greys, and we brought out the Tarifa rug, which was our kind of slightly bonkers, slightly fluorescent, washed out kilim, which was kind of a modern take on a traditional design. And we can't make it fast enough.
Yeah.
It's been really, really popular because I think we all had a whole, it felt like forever actually. It felt like decades of grey. And now people want colour. And you want to go into a house and feel that people actually live there.
Yeah.
And things have got a bit of an opinion. So we have really found that the development of colour has been important. This sort of slightly bonkers coral colour.
So Pantone was living coral colour of the year. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, so that was
spot on.
So I'm really pleased to have heard that actually, because that was a massive punt.
Yeah.
So, but yes, we've they're selling really well. So it depends really. I try and design things in kind of 3 categories. So we have slightly Scandinavian, soft, not too shouty, small geometric designs, things that you can kind of live with in a neutral space, or that aren't too shouty. Then we have the kind of bohemian kilims, washed out colours, slightly Ibiza vibe. And then we're now moving into a sort of linen, slightly French, shabby chic, because they seem to, they sit well.
Do you kind of design on what you feel like, oh, this will be exciting, let's do this, or do you do like trend forecasts? Because you're very on trend. I don't know if you know how on trend you are.
Who would have thought
you are so on trend.
Did you realise that I'm really on trend?
I hate to say it, I think it's things you like.
That's all I do.
Yeah.
Really.
If I'm really
you might be influenced by papers, by the
I
the magazines you read.
Collected,
but,
I've always collected fabrics, so I've always knitted and I've always collected fabrics. And for us in our house, I've always had paintings. We've not had paintings. We've actually had bits of fabric that we had framed because I love the story of textiles. I love what it tells you about a culture, particularly women who predominantly do it. So it's something that I can relate to, and it's a kind of window into any culture. So I was kind of wild for Suzani's for ages, and that's something we're working on now because I love the craftsmanship in it. So for me, I would love to say that I'm scanning lots of trends, and I'm there. I actually just design things that I like, and I love colour. So I'm bringing more colour in. And the great thing about having your own business is that if it doesn't work, it's only me that gets it in the neck for myself. So actually, I'm happy to be responsible, and we're happy to take risks.
Yeah.
We're not run by accountants. We're not run by anybody apart from us. And because we can make decisions quickly, that is the basis of it. And it's the process that I love the most. I get so excited.
We really enjoy our business.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Working together.
I was just going to say, how is it working together? Is this the first time you've worked together?
No, we with
Because
Happy Valley. So
have-
we
yeah,
have
yeah,
the
you
so
have
with the apple
Happy
juice
Valley.
business and cider business, we've worked together.
Yeah.
We have
an orchard we've planted as well. 1,500 apple trees.
Wow.
In fact, we were pruning them this week. We've been out pruning together. 70,000 trees in the end.
So every day's different. Every day's exciting. We travel quite a lot. Tash loves the design. I guess I'm a little bit more on the sales side, and we do lots of shows. And,
that kind of makes it a good balance, doesn't it?
Does.
When you
have to have your own
different
areas.
talents
Yeah.
and can come together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you have to have you have to be respectful of each other and have your own areas, but not we both collaborate on things, so we won't bring out a design without I'll sit with Barnes and we'll talk about stuff, or we travel a lot, so we'll collect bits of fabric or find things or colours or just get paint things, and that's something we do together at that early phase, and we're lucky to work together. I think we have a similar energy. We met each other when we were in our 30s, so we kind of the person that you want to be with at that point and what's important to you. So there's no one I trust more than him, and hopefully likewise.
Absolutely, no, it's just been such fun, the
and
journey,
it's exciting,
and that makes it effortless. Actually,
That's brilliant.
So,
Yeah, we're not sort of looking, I think it's also what you're looking for. We're not trying to create a huge company or take over the world.
No.
We just love the journey, really.
although all sorts of exciting people are calling us now and asking, to potentially sell things from the RHS or National Trust and so on, and that's great. They're all,
that's very
good businesses or companies or charities
that are just right for your brand.
Yeah.
I can see you in the National Trust really fitting in perfectly because they're very particular about who they have come in, and there has to be a really good story behind it. They don't just get. That's why when you go in there, you just you can't wait to see what you're going to find, and they're all different. It's brilliant. I think you'd be brilliant in there. I want to talk very briefly about the lookbook because the lookbook has the product and then how many bottles it took to make it. I think that's a really good kind of clever way of showing people the impact that you're having on the environment.
And I think that's something we actually, we are a young company, so we are a small team of people, and so it takes time to make things happen because we haven't got a huge marketing department, etc. But the one thing we're aware of is that communication of so we're actually changing our labels next year to sort of say this contains,
that's
it's a
great idea.
So there's something kind of tangible, because I don't know about you, but I just think there's so much bad news. Sometimes you want good news, and if the good news is actually we've been able to, you watch a programme about plastic, which is very depressing, and there seems to be very, very little kind of positive news. I don't know if you, having seen the Drowning in Plastic film, I felt quite depressed at the end of it. Had I not known what was possible, because we were doing it, she went to the recycling place, and it just seemed to be nothing really being positive happened.
No moving forward.
So I think you need to give people hope, and actually hope changes people. And so if hope and a kind of a positive story is motivating, then that's half of it, and that's through information. So people want to know stuff. When we first started, we didn't really gauge how much people want to know, and people want transparency now. They need to know. I think we've all a bit overwhelmed by kind of marketing waft and how honest or true the stories are, and they're kind of these tip in the ocean, in the oceans of sort of one positive story from Coca-Cola, and we know the 68 million plastic bottles that we basically have recycled so far in the last 2 years. That is one day's production, I think, wasn't it, Barnes?
Wow.
Of
goodness me.
Exactly. So actually the story is so much bigger, and I think a lot of people, there's so much white noise. You stop trusting people, and big business, I think, suffering from that, because we know, because we knocked on doors of big businesses and said, work with us collaboratively, or, can we look at how we can change yarn? And the doors were almost universally closed on us then. Yeah. Now, of course, it's changing. But I think giving people the information, so there's, 300 or 3,000 plastic bottles, it's just makes you feel good. And it gives you a sense of what you can do and what can be achieved in a really simple way.
So, the products, there's quite a lot.
Yes.
If interior stylists want to use them for photo shoots, they just get in touch with Hillgate PR, is that right?
Yes, either Hillgate, or actually even easier, they can also contact us just through our website. So Weaver Green is a good email, and we're really happy either through Hillgate or through us just to sort of send out things for people to use.
Brilliant.
We love that. In fact, it's the best way. The way that you understand our products really is by using them. And throw them in the washing machine and chuck some red wine at it. We're really not that precious, because then you get the use and the application of it. So we love lending things to people.
Brilliant. So I will put all the details and contact details in the show notes so everyone knows where to go. Perfect. So I just have one more question. What's next? Are you working on new designs?
I've got some great new things.
Have you?
Yeah. I tell you what I'm into now is embroidery. So we thought it wasn't possible, because to create a slippy enough yarn of the thinnest hernia to be able to do embroidery or crewel work has been the holy grail. I love Suzanne's, and so we're basically working on some designs with that, which will be coming through in the new year. So we'll be launching them in sort of January, February time, and also printing as well. So a kind of new printed work, and I've got something to show you.
Oh, have you?
This is very exciting. No one has seen this, actually. This is hot off the press.
Oh,
He's just written
goodness.
it.
I just scribbled down the word. I wasn't sure whether we should.
So this is basically a broadloom fitted, fully recycled and fully recyclable carpet.
I was going to say, that's actual carpet.
Yes.
Actual carpet.
So this allows us to do two things. The first thing is you can fit it in hotels, houses, wall to wall. The second thing is it also allows us to do really quite exact rugs. So historically, because things are hand loomed, there can be variations. If you get a 150 by 90 rug, it might be 152 by 97 because of the nature of things being hand loomed. This is also hand loomed, but because it's stapled on a backing which is also made entirely from recycled plastic,
which is probably still plastic.
Then it allows us to actually cut it, and then we can bind them. We're using a new tape we're working on, which is a fully recycled PET based yarn tape.
Wow.
So this is really exciting.
That's really exciting.
And that's one of 3 designs to
gorgeous.
start with.
So we have lots of, so we'll be bringing in 3 designs in about, I think there's 5 or 6 colours.
Yeah.
I'll show you some options actually.
Lovely.
But it's a big move because we're going potentially for
Massive.
fitted, and also then people can have a 4 by 5 metre rug, which
Yeah.
opens up huge areas, and
And also again, this is like really hard wearing.
Yeah.
It's great for even things like hotels. We do a lot of commercial work now because obviously a lot of hotels and things need to have a good sustainability story.
Yeah.
Plus they want something practical.
I was going to say, and they'll just stick in the washing machine when it gets spilt on. Let me just describe what I've got in my hand. I have a sample of carpet. It's so it's a flat weave. It's grey. It's got like a zigzag to it, and it's a very
sort of herringbone.
Yeah, herringbone,
We call that,
exactly. But it's really tough. You can feel how strong it is just from this one little sample. I will, if you've got images, I will put the images in the show notes so people can see what we're talking about. Because that's frustrating when you're driving or on a run and you're like, I want to see.
And we have a
really
pile as well.
exciting.
So this is a real flat woven, and we're now doing a loop pile as well. So there'll be some options which will be sort of squishier and more upstairs rugs.
But they're for fitting into a room. They're not rugs. They're literally carpet.
Yeah, so it's literally carpet. So 4 metre. Currently, we're hoping to do a 5 metre option as well.
Yes.
So basically, you just fit it like carpet.
Fantastic.
And that is exciting. Also, stair runners. These are kind of very bright ones, but we've got lots of different designs coming. So we're going to do.
Oh, there's living coral coming in front of me.
Yes, there is.
Anyone doing a feature for living coral?
Yes,
this is where you need to come.
So lots of bright colours here. So really beautiful stair runners and rugs. And so basically,
Set width, so they can be fitted straight up the stairs.
Lovely.
Which are really nice with a finished edge.
So are these available now, or these are coming?
These are available now, and these come in all our rug sizes. So 4 metre by 3 metres by 2.5
So there's 7
down.
colours in the Iris collection, isn't it?
Yes, and then also we have. Then we're going to have 70 centimetres width by up to 8 metres long. So there's no join on a stair.
Brilliant.
So that's really great. They all have to be fitted, obviously, by a carpet fitter.
Yeah.
But they're brilliant. So you can then tie in something upstairs.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Stripes. We didn't have any stripes. So we've got lots of stripes, which will be all in stock from January. So lots of bright stripes of different weaves. I've got some pictures here. So basically cut shuttle method, ignore them.
Lovely.
And then a kind of going into very bright matching cushions.
Lovely, very nautical.
That's the regimental range.
Regimental, very nice.
And some sort of softer things. We also are doing beautiful killing cushions.
Very nice.
And finally...
Gosh, you have been busy.
We have, so this is exciting. Footstools and ottomans. So just literally upholstered and benches. So, dining tables, you do nice... These are great because if you spill something on them, you just clean them. So lovely kind
I'm starting to think of what it's like at your house. It's like Party Central, isn't it?
I'm having up the red wine.
That is very exciting. And is that a press release? They're available from March.
No, these are available now.
now.
So they're about to go onto our online. And but if anyone's interested, these are. I can send you some nice pictures and stuff.
Yeah,
that'd
be great.
But these are. So they're basically we have a great partner and a lovely upholsterer, and we can do any sizes. But these are kind of our standard sizes. They tend to be in the kind of killing weight and dairy weight because they've got a bit of flex to upholster, but they're not too thick. Yeah. So they look great. Really. Yeah, this design, this killing design here, is exactly when I first started going out with my husband. That literally just takes me back. That was our first ever. That was our first ever killing.
Yeah, love that.
So
very exciting.
And also, we are now working on the yarn to have. Literally a linen feel. So we're looking at table linens and things like that. So it's about bringing other categories. Yeah. I have to rein myself back sometimes because infinite possibility is kind of exciting, but it can be a bit overwhelming. So you have to
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Oh, I'm sure that will be a massive success come summer. That would be lovely.
Yeah, so it's exciting.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're
I'm
welcome.
massively inspired on so many levels. I'm very
Lovely
excited
to meet you.
Yes, you
Yes.
too. Very exciting. Thank you very much.
Well, come to we're going to have an opening. Come and see us.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
So yeah, we're
fab.
in Chiswick, which is going to be your showroom.
We're going to open a showroom in the new year, so people, well, particularly if stylists or people want to borrow things, it's great to come in and look and feel, and then we can always send the right size off to people. But I think people do need to touch and feel
Do you
something.
know, they really do, because you just can't, I'm sitting here saying it's really soft, but actually until you felt it, you don't believe that a plastic bottle can be turned into something so soft. Yeah, you're doing fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Stylist podcast. You'll find all the details from today's show over on InsideStylist.com. Until next time, bye for now.